All right. Just gonna do a quick video to show my friend just a quick highlight of some of the polish work that I do in the trigger group to optimize the performance, or at least you know how it feels. So first step is clearly done. This is as I carry it every day. Glock 19 Gen 3, full mag, one in the hole. Gonna set those aside. This kind of shows you some of the glory or nastiness of everyday carry. I don't know if you can see how filthy that is, but it's just, you know, that's what happens when you carry every day. This is a relatively new 19. It's just carry all day every day, and that's what happens. Anyway, confirming clear. And slide the slide off. I was telling you about, we talked about the different safeties. I don't know if you can actually read this from up there, but there's the trigger safety, which is it's the trigger inside of the trigger here. Anyway, that's here on the diagram. So there's that. There is the firing pin safety, which is the little plunger right here, right there. If you can see that there, the little plunger right there. But anyway, and then the last one is the drop safety right here. This is what I was actually describing to you about. The firing pin right there, I don't know if you can see that. The firing pin has like a little notch that sticks up, and that raises up off of, let me see if I can remember what this is called. C26, the trigger bar. This is the trigger bar right here, and the little notch in the firing pin actually raises up off of the back of this, and right there it raises up off of that, and then that allows it to actually shoot forward. So anyway, that's like I said, that's the drop safety. And if you do a little bit of polish work here, you know, on the actual trigger bar and on the firing pin, that surface right there, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. That surface right there, it actually will improve the feel of the trigger as it actually, you know, releases and fires. So let's cover some quick basics, I guess. Let's do this really quickly. If you don't already have a 3/32 punch, you're going to need that. Let's see here. I'm going to do... Let's do the top pin first. I probably could have done the bottom one, but that's okay. Okay, there's your top pin. It's kind of dirty. I'll clean that up. When you do the bottom pin, sometimes you have to wiggle the slide release a little bit to get the bottom pin out, because it's got the, you know, it's got the grooves in it there. So sometimes you have to wiggle a little bit to get it out, but that was no problem. The slide stop lever, I'm sorry. So here's the slide stop lever that I'm using. This is it's a Glock factory one, but it's just extended a little bit. So I'm trying to dust this stuff off as I put it down so that I can actually be clean when I go back together. This is like a silicone impregnated cloth here from Midway. These are stainless pins from the Glock store. I learned that carrying every day in South Florida, you get a lot of moisture and nastiness in there. All right, gonna go ahead and just pry the block out here. What is that called? The locking block. I'm gonna pry that out. It is not too bad. Still oily, so a little bit of dust, but not too bad. Okay, and then the last step in a basic teardown is to pull the, this is the back pin here, trigger housing pin. It's the shortest one. All right, this one, see, let me see if I can show this on the video. I actually want to show this to you guys. This is stainless steel, and I don't know if you can see there that it has some oxidation on it. You see if this helps to focus. Do you see that? That's nutty. I mean, that's a stainless steel pin and fairly new, but you know, everyday carry in Florida, like I said, it's rough on this stuff. I think that's part of what makes a Glock ideal, is that there's so much polymer. But anyway, you take the 3 pins out, then you can take the whole trigger group out. Dust this off a little bit here. It's not too bad. A little bit of dust in there, but not too bad considering. Here, you can see that I've got a Ghost 3.5 connector in here. And another thing that I want you to see is the polish work that I've done to the trigger bar. Like I said, it's a little dirty. So I'm wiping it off just so that you can see how the polish work is. To be honest, I'm kind of lazy, so I don't want to pull the whole bar out to show you everything, but you can see that what I've done here is polish the entire trigger bar here. These two surfaces, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. These two surfaces where the trigger bar, the opposite side of it goes against the connector, that will really affect the feel of the trigger. Let me see if I can simulate this. Like this moving here. You know, those two pieces moving together, that's what you feel when you're pulling the trigger. That's part of what you feel when you're pulling the trigger. So having that well polished and well lubricated definitely helps the trigger feel. One thing that I was pointing out, and I'm sorry I don't want to take the trigger bar out right this second, but you can probably see on the video, is can you see how, I'm trying to put my hand behind this so it'll focus. Can you see how polished this piece is right here? That's all polished because essentially, let me tear this apart real quick. Hang on. I'm going to take the spring out of the the recoil assembly. We're gonna take it out of the slide. It's a little dusty, but it's not too bad. Incidentally, this is a tungsten rod. It's heavier, so it gives you a little bit of nose weight. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm gonna do a little bit of house cleaning while I got you on video. I know I'm spending time, but it's important. There's a lot of dust in there. Anyway, that's fine for what we're doing. What I was trying to tell you is that this part of the firing pin actually drags across the that connector. And I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna show you, as much as I hate to do this, I'm gonna show you the way you take the firing pin out is you just press that little plunger thing there on the firing pin. This is it. One thing to point out is that I have the maritime spring cups. I'll show you here. Basically, if you ever had to fire the gun underwater, which, you know, I hope to God I never have to fire the gun like in a defensive situation ever, but if you ever had to fire it underwater, the water would cause a misfire because it would get blocked in the firing pin. So they make what they call maritime spring cups. And I don't know if you can see them, but they have right here, they have these little teeth instead of the smooth cups. This is the black plastic we're looking at right here. There's little teeth there instead of the smooth cups that these come with, so the water can get past. Anyway, see how the firing pin has a little notch that sticks down here? Let's see if you can see that. Like that. There you go. See that little notch right there? That's what drags across the connector. So let me show you how that happens in the gun when you fire. That is like this. Okay. And it raises up off of here on the end. And so that's why you can feel what's going on in the back of this. And you can feel whether or not this is polished, and it is, but it's dirty. So let me wipe it off and show you how it's polished. I don't know if you can see. That it's polished or not. There you can kind of see the reflection that surface right there is polished. But anyway, that all helps the trigger feel. So that's what I was talking about when I said that, you know what, here, let me show you this. This is funny. This thing, it's fairly recent for my guns. I mean, I bought it just a few years ago. It probably only has, I don't know, a couple thousand rounds through it, but you can see the holster wear along the top of here. That's from just being in a holster all the time. But anyway, so really quick rundown of what I do. I take the actual firing pin out of this and polish it, paying close attention to that surface down there. And like I said, don't take any material. Do not take any material out of it. You're just shining the surface. You're not removing any material. If you remove material, you're going to actually change, you know, where it actually fires. And that can be, if you really know what you're doing, that can be fine. Or you can make a gun that won't fire anymore. So you don't want to remove material. You just want to polish it to improve the feel. It's kind of hard to do this where it can be seen on the video. Putting that, I'm pulling the plastic piece down and then putting the backing plate, slide cover plate in place. Using the punch to push that firing pin. What do they call that? That plunger. Let me see. I've got the thing here. It's number 11. Extractor depressor plunger. That's what you have to push in before you put the cover plate in. But anyway, that's what puts the spring pressure on the actual. I'm sorry, the firing pin safety. This is that little plunger there. It's called the firing pin safety, and it's got spring pressure on it from the. I'm sorry, the extractor depressor plunger. at any rate, whatever. Yeah, you know, now that I think of it, there are two separate springs. There is the spring on the extractor depressor plunger, and there is a spring on the actual firing pin safety. I don't really want to show you that. I mean, there are videos for that on YouTube. All you have to do is pull the cover plate off, pull the plunger out, and you can see the spring on the plunger, and you can see the spring underneath the firing pin safety. But that would make this like a 30-minute video, so I'm not going to show you that. That's all back together. Here's where I polish the ramp. I think that, you know, you hear people talking about what kind of ammo they're running and whether it feeds reliably or not, and yeah, there are probably some ammo that will work better than others with certain guns, but you know, one thing that always helps no matter what brand gun you have is if you polish that ramp. And again, it's kind of a don't take material out, it's just polish it type of deal. So anyway, you get your barrel back in, recoil spring assembly. That is ready to go back together. Now we are going to put the trigger group back together. So drop the trigger in. Oh, I showed you where all that stuff's polished, and that's very much an important part of the improvements there. So that's pushed in good and flush. I really hope that you can see how that's all been polished in here. But anyway, all right, so that's that. We are going to put the locking block back in, and I think I'm going to start with, I just forget I'm going to put the actual trigger housing pin. I'm going to put that in first just because it's quick and easy. That one you just kind of get flush on both sides and you're good. Now on the front pins, you kind of have to put the top pin in first because the spring on the actual the spring on the slide stop lever goes underneath it. So anyway, the top pin technically is called the locking block pin. Putting that in first, or I guess second if you count the other one. All right, that one is sunken in a little bit, but it's pretty even on both sides. Then what you actually do is you drop the slide stop lever into place in here. It goes under the pin we just installed, and you know, you just kind of hold it in its normal position right here. And then you can take the fat pin, which is the trigger pin, and you can push it through. First it's going through the actual slide stop lever, so you kind of got to wiggle a little bit to get it in. Then it's going through the trigger, and now you can see it's already right through. I gotta say, this trigger pin, they're not, if you don't have stuff lined up, like the slide stop lever and the trigger, if you don't have stuff lined up, I don't care how hard you push this pin, it's not going through. And then on the contrary, if you have everything lined up, it just passes through. I mean, it doesn't require any force. There's never a reason on a Glock that you're gonna have the punch and you're gonna need like a hammer to hammer something through. I mean, you do not do that, okay? So anyway, once you've done that, you're good to go. Just kind of like function checks, everything's moving and working fine. Here's the trigger safety there, that it won't come back unless you pull the trigger. If you could see where some more of the polish work there, but anyway, it's just, we've kind of gone over that. Everything looks good here. Put the slide back in. Feels good. This is going to be probably just under a 4-pound trigger pull for the work that I do with the 3.5 connector and the polishing, but you know, all the springs are stock. But it feels pretty good. I mean, for a Glock trigger, it's going to be about as good as you're going to get without really just replacing everything and doing crazy stuff. But on an everyday carry gun, I won't do all of the crazy race gun type mods. I mean, you know, to me, I do only the things that like a normal cop would do, I would say. And, you know, they probably wouldn't even do the 3.5 connector, but that's just me. So that's it. A little bit of polishing here and there, optimizes things, helps the ammo feed well. Guess one other thing I could show you is that I've got the plug in the handle here. So between the extra weight here, I'm sorry, the pin up here in the recoil spring, the tungsten pin here that adds nose weight. Those two things, to me, they kind of help like the balance of the gun, and they minimize the recoil because of the extra weight. Lastly, I don't know if you'll be able to see from the video where I do a little bit of polymer work. I don't get crazy with it. I just, you know, a little bit of a relief here is kind of nice, you know, compared to stock. And I do take this bottom groove, and I don't completely remove it, but I smooth it down a little bit. So to me, that helps my hand, you know, feel a lot more comfortable by having more room here, and also not having this bottom one really, that bottom groove really sticking out. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of everything that I just showed you there is kind of my everyday carry recipe for a Glock. I mean, it's nothing fancy. It just works. Hope this helps.